already one fight down on UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imavov, but we are coming back at you to break down the entire card with the rest of the fights and give you my complete analysis on those, my picks, my best bets. So far, all the betting lines are not out, but we will update as soon as those betting lines get out, and I will have some more bets coming in. I've got some stuff that I'm going to talk about throughout this whole thing, so stick with me. My name is Brady. This is Be All In Sports. Let's get right to it. We obviously don't want to waste your time, so we're going to jump right into it. We've got the first matchup, Hamdi Abdelwahab taking on Jamal Pogues. This matchup comes down to experience for me. Hamdi is coming in off of a matchup that he had with Dontel Mays. Dontel Mays is not the greatest opponent in the heavyweight division. He's a formidable first opponent for somebody coming in. I believe he came in on short notice. He only has a record of about 3-0 in mixed martial arts. I believe he does have some other experience in wrestling, perhaps. But on the other hand, you have Jamal Pogues, who I believe this is his fourth fight now in the UFC, and the experience is starting to show with him. He seems to be growing a little bit more, starting to realize like what he has to do in order to get these wins. He does go to decision a lot. You know that he is wanting that big shot, and you always kind of hope that that doesn't get him in trouble. But in this particular matchup, I think that he is going to be the more experienced out of the two, and I think that he is going to be the one that's going to constantly be throwing out a jab. Hamdi is hittable, and Pogues does have some pretty good takedown defense, so I think he's going to be able to keep this on his feet. Hamdi throws those looping overhands, and I just don't see Jamal Pogues getting caught with something like that. I think he throws those straights, those jabs all night long. I think he's going to land on him all night long. I think this is I feel pretty confident that that Jamal Pogues is going to be my pick for this first matchup. As of right now, I don't have a bet in on this because I don't feel very comfortable betting on heavyweights. Like I said, Pogues, he's looking for that finish. He hasn't seemed to be able to get it, but sometimes when you look for it too much, you do things wrong and it overexposes you in other ways. Hamdi can take advantage of that if he puts him in bad situations. But overall, I look at Pogues and I think he's going to be the one that ends up creating the pressure in the longer rounds. I think he can stick that jab out there and continually walk him down. So I think Pogues gets this one done, but that's enough about this first matchup. We'll jump to the next. Next up, we have Bogdan Grad taking on Lucas Alexander. When I first saw this matchup, I got to be honest, I was all over Bogdan Grad. I thought that he was the better fighter. When I heard the two names, Grad is coming off the Contender Series. He's coming back, I believe, off about a 4-month layoff. Lucas Alexander coming back a little over a year off. And he did get knocked out in his last matchup against Sergey, who is no longer in the UFC, which obviously that's a red flag, sends up immediately. But when I went back and watched the tape, like I said, I was all over Grad. His tenacity when he comes out, he's definitely got some power. He comes out pretty ferocious. But when I looked at Alexander, I kept noticing that he keeps distance very, very well. And when you're talking about UFC experience, Alexander's definitely got that. He has – I'm not going to take anything away when you're losing to Joe Anderson Brito. I think Brito is could be one of the best in the division. He's very young. And Lucas Alexander, like I said, he took some time off after that knockout. He did get that win, which I think was very impressive against Steven Peterson in the middle there too. So to me, I don't think Lucas Alexander is as bad as his record may look. And I think that he can give Grad some problems if he can keep the distance. I think he is going to be the faster striker out of the two. And if Grad does take it to the ground, I don't know that Alexander is going to be in trouble there because he does have submission skills. So anywhere this fight goes, I think Alexander might be able to counteract. And if he can keep it on the feet, good for him. I think he's going to be the better striker. If Grad does get it to the ground, Alexander can be slick and possibly put him into submission trouble. But we'll see how this one goes. My pick, though, is going to be Lucas Alexander. Like I said, I like Grodd. I think he's very good, and this could honestly be a showcase for him. They may be setting this up, but sometimes these fucking things go wrong. I've seen it happen before. Alexander and Grodd are the same age, so you never know. If Alexander comes out and shows out like he did against Peterson, he was very difficult in that matchup to deal with. His movement, the way his speed was a very big problem. So we'll see if this one works out, but I'm going to take Lucas Alexander to win this matchup. Next up, we have Jasmine Jazz DeVicious taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. Mayra Bueno Silva, if you remember right, did have that last matchup that she had against Macy Chiasson when she got cut. And before she got cut in that matchup, I'm not necessarily sure she was losing that fight, or at least she wasn't doing that bad in that fight. So, again, we can look at that two ways. Obviously, you look at it as a loss, but I did this not too long ago when I was looking at that Felipe Bunes fight. When he was fighting, I said in that matchup, I said he looks like he's got a lot of fire in him from this loss. Like, oh, man, I really fucked up. And it was more on him than it was about his opponent. And I think he learned a lot from that. So that was why, in turn, this matchup, I was picking him to win his second matchup. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. Jazz DeVicious, she's fought some top-notch talent. Buena Silva has fought some very, very high-level competition. I think she had a title fight. I think when she fought Raquel Pennington, which she did lose by unanimous decision, but that was, I believe, a title fight. So, again, she's not far off that title, and I believe that she wants to get there. She's a tenacious woman, and I don't like these odds, obviously. 12-3 is a great record for Jazz DeVicious. She's been a wrestler, but obviously Buena Silva is going to be the bigger fighter. She's been fighting at a higher weight class. She's coming down in this fight. So when I look at the two, I just think I think Jazz DeVicious is going to have a little bit of a hard time getting it on the ground. And I honestly think that Buena Silva might be the better striker out of the two. Jazz DeVicious tends to rush in a lot and try and trap you against the cage. You can do that against Silva, and she may get lazy there. I don't know how that'll play out, but ultimately I do see this one going a little bit long. I think that over 2.5 is something that I may be looking at betting when it comes out. It hasn't dropped yet, but I'll definitely be looking for that line. But I do like an underdog play on Mayra Buena Silva here. To me, is not a bad play, especially now that she's sitting at what, 1 plus 185. To me, that's a little bit up there for somebody of her talent level. She's fought some high level women's fighters already, so there is no reason that she is going to be majorly outmatched in this competition, and I don't think that those odds are reflecting of that, and I think it's kind of discrediting her. So I like Buena Silva in this one. I think she can get this done, so that's where I'm sticking with this. We will move on to the next match. Right off the bat, I love this fight. Faraz Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Faraz Ziam coming out of Kill Cliff. I love that gym. Mike Davis, he is over at Fusion XL. I do follow Mike Davis on Instagram. He's very entertaining watching his tutorials that he does, kind of watching what he's doing. I think this is going to be a great fight. I like both of these guys. I think when I saw the odds, Faraz Ziam, it was way out there in left field. I believe he was plus 160s originally, which that I don't agree with at all. I think that's way too high for somebody of his talent level. Faraz Ziam is very dangerous anywhere this goes. He is coming in off a 4-fight winning streak. He sets at that 16-4 record. Mike Davis 11-2. He's also coming in on a 4-fight winning streak. And when you look at the level of competition, I'm going to say it's fairly equal, honestly. Puelas, he's fought Frivola, or Ziam has fought Frivola. He's fought Claudio Puelas. He's got a win against Jai Herbert. He's got a win against Michael Figlak. But then he lost against Terrence McKinney before that. I know that was a long time ago. almost 3 years ago now. Mike Davis, on the other hand, his last win was against Natan Levy, no longer in the UFC, I believe. Vyacheslav Borshev, he won against unanimous decision, but that was over 2 years ago, still fresh in Borshev's career. So that Mason Jones win, though, that was a very tough one. Mason Jones is very tough. But again, that was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. He had a long layoff there where he didn't fight for a long time. So I think it was due to injury. So he is coming back. I am a little scared of this pick with Faraz Ziam even sitting as an underdog. I am a little bit worried about this pick, but I think if Mike Davis comes in completely healthy and you've got a healthy Ziam and both of them are skill for skill, I think Mike Davis is the faster of the two. I like his age. He's sitting right in his prime. Ziam, even though he is younger, he's got more experience. I know he's definitely well-rounded in his skill set, but Mike Davis is the same exact thing. He is very well-rounded. I think he is going to be the stronger of the two, and I think it's going to be kind of a bully situation in a way. So I'm going to go out on a limb here at first. Like I said, I had originally picked Faraz Ziam, but in this particular instance, I went ahead. I had to change it up. I'm going Mike Davis in this. This may backfire on me. I don't know. I'm going to see how this plays out. The one thing that I can say that I'm not overly joyed about in picking Mike Davis is more of a mental thing, honestly. I think I've heard Mike Davis say in the past in his post-fight interviews that he's not all about the fight game. He's all about what the fight game brings him. Obviously, he's getting to fight in Saudi Arabia, so it's taking him to a different country in this. And I think that's more where his mentality sets is, I'm not necessarily chasing a championship. I don't think that Mike Davis necessarily has long aspirations to win a championship. And that kind of worries me because that's what you're ultimately in the UFC to do in most people's cases. But it is a business too. So in order to win, you make more money. So you have to think that he wants to make the money regardless. And that's where I'm going to sit. I don't like that mental mindset of I like what the UFC brings me. Yeah, I'm sure everybody does, but still, it is the fight game. Ziam in that realm, I think he has title aspirations. He's still young. Mike Davis, a little bit older. And like I said, I believe he's gone through some injury stuff. So we'll see how this one comes out. And it may backfire on me. I know there's some in here that, I'm kind of wishy-washy on, but this is one I think Mike Davis can get this done. I think skill for skill, he can outlast Ziam anywhere it goes, and I think he's going to be the stronger. Like I said, I am kind of waiting on this to flip as far as odds go, because if Davis is the favorite right now, it keeps going down. And I'm thinking as we get closer, this might be one of those that you can sneak in at pick'em odds, plus odds, maybe right around that 120. If it gets down to about the 120, minus 115 for Davis or something weird like that, I might definitely poke at that one. But even if it drops in the 130s, that's something that I'd be interested in. But I'm going to go with Mike Davis. I'm a little hesitant on this pick. It's not a high confidence pick. So at this point, I'm not going to be teaming it up with anything, but I like Mike Davis to beat Faraz Ziam in this. Okay, this is one of those fights I really, really want to be right on. And I'm hoping that all the homework that I've done on this fight, I'm hoping that it pays off because, listen, this is probably what I'll put as my most confident pick of this whole card. So I know when I say that, it does scare me too now because Umar was my most confident pick of this last card, and it totally blew up in my face, which, by the way, I totally forgot to go over that whole card. But yeah, Umar pretty much just blew my whole card up with that one. Everything else that I picked was almost dead on. So, sometimes that happens. But on to this one. In this one, I feel strongly like Terrence McKinney can get this done. And I'll tell you why I say this. And it is simply because Terrence McKinney, if he wants to be smart in this, and he can maintain his gas tank. And I don't even know if this is going to be such a difficult task for him. I think he's going to be the better striker out of the two. I think he can easily take Hadzovic down. Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic is one of those matches that you look at, and just looking at their last match when Hadzovic took on Mark Jacasey, which, by the way, was 2 years and 6 months ago now. When I'm looking at matches like this, it doesn't make any sense that this guy's been in a layoff almost 3 years. McKinney is 30 years old. He needs a win very desperately. He's coming off of a loss, but his loss was to Esteban Ribovics. That's a big difference. And he did get knocked out, which obviously you don't necessarily like. That can change the course of your entire career sometimes, but it was a nasty one. The head kick was a nasty one. But in this particular instance, you take enough time off. Hopefully your mental facilities are back. It was 8 months ago now, and I think before that he was on a roll. He was definitely putting down his own path of destruction. And look, when you're looking at Damir Hadzovic, he's been off for almost 3 years now. It is very difficult to come back. He's also 38 years old, halfway to almost 39. So you've got a big age discrepancy. I believe it's like 70% of the time, if you've got a 7-year age gap, most of the time that it's like 70% of the time the younger fighter is winning those matchups. So this is boiling down to just being in the cage more frequently, even though you're about 8 months out, and due off to a long or to a knockout. At the same time, Hadzovic has been out so long that he's almost back to that green behind the ears type feel. So I'm going to take Terrence McKinney in this one. I think this is his match to lose. I think he can go out. He's going to be able to get this to the ground. And I think he can sub Damir Hadzovic, honestly. I think he gets it done by submission. He's just so fast. He can be on you in a minute, and that ground and pound can be there. But I'm going to go Terrence McKinney by submission in this one. I think he gets it done, and I'll definitely be including him in some of my parlays. We'll see how that starts floating. It's going the way I thought it would go, which is, minus odds. So you're not going to get the greatest money, but I think Terrence McKinney is a really good parlay piece for this weekend. So I will be parlaying him in a couple of my parlays as well. I already do have a couple of them in that I will show you as soon as we get to the end of this sucker. But we will move on to the next match. All right, next up we have Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi taking on Balaji Oki. Oki coming in on short notice in this matchup. But it's not short notice. We're not talking like a week out. And obviously he's coming in for a reason, I believe. And that was because he was hungry to get back in the octagon and get another win. So Wadi is coming off of that knockout loss to Loic Radzhabov, which that was about 10 months ago now. And I've gone back and done the tape on these guys. Olaji has a very, very, very nice jab. He sticks that thing out there and connects quite often. So Wadi, it can be a little bit difficult to get a bead on because his constant movement, he gets the back and forth going. And while he does put out a pretty high volume of punches and kicks, here's what when I looked at these two guys. One, you do have a little bit of a size discrepancy. You've got a 73-inch to 69-inch reach advantage for Oki. You also have a 2-inch height advantage for Oki. When I look at Al-Sawadi, even though he does seem to have some pretty good cardio, it looks to me like he's having to do too much. It's not calm. It's not cool and collected. That's where I think the differences come in. Balaji Oki, he stands in front of you, he walks you down, and he lays a jab on you constantly. And Sawadi was very hittable when I saw him. He was getting tapped with a jab. So I don't think that it's going to be any different. he was winning the match before he ended up getting knocked out. I think, in my opinion, he was probably up 2 rounds to nothing. But again, he would kind of expend himself throughout the match. And I think if you go that distance with Balaji Oki, I think the same thing is going to happen. I think you're going to get knocked out later in the rounds due to taking so much damage from the jab early on. And I think that he is going to be able to land something big. I think he's going to double tap you and then knock you straight out with a a possible left or right hook or something along those lines. But I think this is a matchup that Balaji can win. I think this is his matchup to lose. I know that Salwati was obviously training for somebody else, and sometimes that can have a little bit of a hindrance. In this case, I think they both had enough time to figure each other out a little bit. But I look for Balaji Oki to walk him down. I look for him to put that jab on him, and I look for him to be the one that's going to be a little bit more in your face and just always there. And I think eventually it's going to be too much for Salwati. And I think Balaji Oki is going to be my pick for this fight. I think he gets it done. Again, my order on these things, I don't see this being this late in the card. I don't think this fight's going to be this late in the card. We'll see how that plays out. But sorry about my order. My order is taken off UFC.com, and I don't know if that's accurate right now. But we will move on to the next fight. Moving on up the card, we have Shamil Gaziev taking on Thomas Peterson. This matchup basically boils down to one thing, and that is going to be wrestling. Because in my mind, when I go back and I watch these two perform, I don't think Peterson has a way to beat Gaziev if he's not able to get him on the ground or at least control him along the fence. And Shamil Gaziev doesn't look like the type that is even going to let you get close to doing that, because he is going to be the one that is controlling the pace of this fight. I believe that he's going to be walking him down. When I went back and watched these fights, Gaziev has had that fight against Rosenstruck, which was a 5-round fight. I only watched 3 rounds of it because that is more going to be what I expect him, if not even more. So in this fight, I think he's going to be able to put more pressure on Peterson, because we're not talking about him going long, and he's going to want to finish this fight because it's definitely a finishable fight. And Gaziev is a finisher. I think he's going to be able to possibly get this in a ground and pound situation. Gaziev is going to be the bigger fighter out of the two, even though, they're not far off in weight. I think that just size-wise, Gaziev is going to be bigger. I think he has fought the higher level competition. He's got more MMA experience, period. And even though I don't necessarily like betting on heavy favorites, anymore, or putting them necessarily in parlays, after doing all the work on this, even though it is a heavyweight fight, anything can happen. Peterson can definitely smoke him if he comes out and lands a huge overhand. I just don't see it happening. I think Shamil's got too good of a chin. That usually has not been his problem. If you're taking shots from Rosenstruck, then I think you can take shots from Peterson, and I don't think that's going to be an issue for you. So in this one, it's an easy pick for me, Shamil Gaziev. I think when I first looked at the odds, he's right up around that minus 400 now. And like I said, very, very difficult to trust taking that. But I do feel strongly that he is going to be able to get this done pretty easily, and I think it's going to be a finish by him. So in this instance, I wouldn't feel bad about, and I'll come back and maybe talk about some prop bets for this, because I think there's some really good spots in here. But I think Gaziev gets this done. I think he's definitely moneyline parlayable, I feel. So I'm probably going to be sticking him in some of my own, but I'm going to see some of when the lines drop for some other stuff and when props start coming out, we'll see what that looks like and go from there. But I am going to take Shamil Gaziev to get this done against Thomas Peterson. On to the next fight. Next up, we have Muhammad Imavov taking on Khan Ofli. Ofli's coming off of the Ultimate Fighter series where he did pretty well. He got did get to the finals, where he ended up losing to Myron Santos. Myron Santos is good. I wasn't honestly. I thought that Offley was going to win that fight. I thought his wrestling would be good enough to withstand anything that Myron Santos was going to put out there. And to be quite honest with you, I believe that he did get him. I believe that he did take him down at one point, and possibly I think Santo or what? No, I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've been able to watch that fight. But I watched some others from Offley, and I remember some of his other ones in the series, and I always remember being impressed with him throughout the whole Ultimate Fighter series. But when he got to that last match, I had him picked in that match, and I didn't necessarily expect Santos to get the KO victory, but he ended up knocking him out. That was about 5 months ago now, and this is going to be his first match in the UFC. You always have to worry about kind of how that type of fighter is going to come back. Even though I think he could come back strong, he's also facing a very, very tough opponent in Muhammad Naimov. Naimov is coming off a loss to Felipe Lima, who that's the dude that got bit on the underneath of his arm and got the tattoo. That's not necessarily a bad loss. Lima's 12-1. He's a pretty formidable fighter there. So I'm not going to take anything away from Naimov there. He does have wins over Eric Silva. He's got win over Nathaniel Wood. I do place that one pretty high up in as far as opposing fighters. Jamie Malarkey, that's not a bad win, although he caught him. He definitely caught him there. But there was kind of a question on the stoppage there, and Malarkey might have been actually winning that fight before he did, finally lose to Naimov. But this is one of those fights that, if you look at the areas that Offley's good, I think Naimov is good or is just as good or better in those same areas, and he's the one that continually shows the improvement. I think he's getting better and better each fight. And I think that he has the durability. We haven't seen him getting knocked out. And I think he's always in a fight, no matter what. He always has that ability to land something big. The one thing that I am worried about, and this, I think it'll offset, because I don't think one of these guys is going to be necessarily a lot better than each other on the ground. But I am interested to see how that takedown interactions go and the grappling sections go. We'll see how this plays out, but I feel pretty strongly that Naimov is going to be able to get this done. Like I said, some of these fights boil down to the experience levels of these fighters. I think he's had experience against higher level fighters, and all I can do is go with what I've seen on tape. I've got more tape to watch on Naimov against higher level competition, and I like those. I like seeing fighters that I can judge based on what they've done in the UFC in those circumstances, kind of knowing how they react to big moments. I haven't necessarily seen that from Offley, and the one moment that I did see him in that interaction, it wasn't so successful. So I have to go Naimov on this one. We'll talk about some parlays, but I feel pretty confident that Naimov can get this one done. Offley, I do like him. I think he was good on that series, but I'm just not sure that he can beat somebody like Muhammad Naimov coming in on your first match. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong. I think Naimov's got this one, though. So that's where I'm going on this one. We'll move on. Okay, this one could be like fight of the night chip material right here. We have Said Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Oliveira. This one can go one of two ways. Either Vinicius Oliveira is able to catch him, and kind of annoy him to the point that he lets his guard down and makes mistakes, or Said Nurmagomedov can take advantage of every one of Oliveira's bad tendencies that he usually fights with. So it's going to be interesting to see how Vinicius comes out in this one, because listen, when you come out with a style like Vinicius has been showing, which is the hands down, next to your side, kind of egging you on type thing, and that doesn't always work. And I think that this may be a spot that it may not work. Said Nurmagomedov is not your typical Nurmagomedov. He's not the, great at wrestling type. He's not one of those. He is built on the striking, and that is what he does very well. He kicks very, very well, and Oliveira puts himself out there. He, like I said, he fights with a hands-down style, kind of egging you on, getting in your face, and walking you down type style, but he gets hit a lot, and Nurmagomedov does not get hit that much. He, he can get into firefights, but his speed is, in my eyes, he's gonna be faster than Vinicius. He's may not have the power, but I think that just his overall technical ability and ability to keep you at range, ability to maneuver around, and the kicking is what I'm wondering about, because Vinicius has been hurt with leg kicks, and Nurmagomedov is going to land some leg kicks on him. He's going to constantly be battering those legs, and 18-3 is not a shabby record. And the people that you're losing to are, we're talking about you lost to Jonathan Martinez, and that was by decision. You know how difficult it is to beat Jonathan Martinez. I went back and watched that fight. It was, in my eyes, I did not see a unanimous decision coming out of that one. I think that Nurmagomedov actually got the first round, and I think he was doing better with the leg kicks than normally where Martinez shines. He was not landing leg kicks. Nurmagomedov was able to get out of the way. So if he's able to get out of the way and move out of his range, Jonathan Martinez, I think Oliveira is going to be in the same range, and I think that the quickness is about the same with those two. So for me, Nurmagomedov, I'm going to wait till these odds shift a little bit more. I know right now they seem to be moving to where I want to place another bet in it. I do have a bet in on this right now, but I like Nurmagomedov to win this match. I think he's the better skilled fighter on the feet, and I think this is going to play out on the feet. Even if it does go to the ground, I think that he can turn it around or possibly be the one getting it to the ground, because Oliveira he doesn't necessarily go for takedowns, and that's not his game unless he's getting beat up, and then he will, but I don't think he's going to be very successful. So I kind of see this going anywhere it goes. I think Nurmagomedov is going to be the more technical. I think he's going to be the more skilled fighter in this matchup. That is why I have to go with him, especially when I'm getting him even at plus 100, anywhere in that range odds. If I can get that somewhere along parlay range, I would definitely do it. But I think he wins this matchup. So I think this is kind of where that hype train stops. Oliveira's on that 4-fight winning streak. Nurmagomedov I think is going to put him in his place. I think he gets it done here. But I'm going Saeed. Let's get it done. And on to the next match. If you have not already, please hit the like and subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments. Give me your fight picks in these comments. If you're agreeing with what I'm saying, let me know. Hit me up. Let me know what you're picking. I am always interested to hear from the MMA community. I love doing this. This is kind of my thing on a weekly basis. I like to see where we're hitting, where we're missing, and how we can improve from week to week. We always seem to make some money, and we may have those bad weeks every once in a while, but we always bounce back. So I think this is going to be a big bounce back week. Like I said, last week, Umar killed me on my parlays, but did have some of them that did hit. Some of my single bets hit. So we're still good. But we are on to the next match. It's going to be Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This one is, I don't think Rozenstruik is the same fighter that he was a while back. I'm not really impressed with his speed anymore. Even though this is a heavyweight match, I am going to be putting a bet on this, I'm sure. I think that Pavlovich is a good pick in this one. I think that he's going to have a speed advantage. I don't think that, even though Rozenstruik is a counter striker, and Pavlovich does tend to sometimes get a little bit over carried away, I guess, and come in a little bit strong, could possibly leave himself open for a counter. But I don't think that he's going to give Rozenstruik a chance. Even on those counters, you have to hit with some type of power, and I don't think he's going to have the power to get it done. I mean, Tom Aspinall did, but that's Tom Aspinall. He hits a lot harder than Rozenstruik does. And Volkov got it done, but he got it done by decision. when you're going to decision with Volkov and then Rosenstruck goes to decision, but the level that he's fighting is nowhere near the level. I mean, you're going to decision with Tai Tuivasa. So that should have ended one way or another with a knockout. I think Pavlovich actually has the power that Tai Tuivasa doesn't, because Tuivasa did land on you occasionally. And if Pavlovich lands on you any way, shape, or form, I think he's going to get this done. So that is why I have to go Pavlovich in this one. I'm not going to trust somebody that I think most of the wins that Jairzinho Rozenstruik has got are with people that are no longer in the UFC. So I cannot trust that. I think Pavlovich has fought the higher level competition. He's got wins over higher level competition. And I think that, again, even their common opponents, he finished Tai Tuivasa. Rozenstruik didn't. He doesn't have the power, I don't feel, to knock Pavlovich out. But in turn, I do think Pavlovich has the power to knock Rozenstruik out. So I can't go Jairzinho in this one. I like him, but I got to go Sergi in this one. I feel pretty confident, and this is definitely one of those that, even though it is a heavyweight match, I do know it can go either way. I think that Pavlovich gets this done, and I feel pretty confident in it, and I do feel okay with putting this in a parlay. But I got to go Pavlovich, but we'll move on to the next one. Now, this fight, I cannot wait to see. And I usually do not say this about these two people, because even though I've said it in the past, Michael Page, when I first heard about him coming out of Bellator, I was very interested to see what he came out with, what he was like, what his game was. I wasn't too impressed, honestly, when I first saw him, until I saw him dent somebody's forehead. That was definitely impressive. When you're cracking somebody's skull with your knee, I tend to take notice. When I first saw the shot, I didn't think it was that good. But then when I went back and watched it on replays, he definitely flatlined that guy. So it kind of took him to a different level. And he did get a little bit of that mystique. I know he's been knocked out. I think he's only been finished once, though, as far as being knocked out. That was a while ago. And it was a pretty brutal knockout. But since then, he's had plenty of matches. Magomedov coming in, Shara Magomedov coming in, he looks impressive. When I first saw him fight, I wasn't overly impressed. I got to be honest. When I'm just watching it with the blind eye, going back now and watching his first fight against Bruno Silva, he definitely landed some shots on him. But what I did notice about him is those leg kicks. And every time I see Michael Venom Page fight, I always tend to wonder, how are you going to deal with a person that kicks the shit out of your legs? And Magomedov is going to kick the shit out of Michael Page's legs at some point. He's going to land some of those kicks. But then I started going back on Michael Page's career and watching some of his fights. And one thing that I notice he does well is he covers an amazing amount of distance very, very quick. And it's almost like within a second, he's covering a couple feet here. And he's in your face. He's usually laying something pretty heavy on you. It's usually a complete, like a right straight, a left straight, anything, that he can lay on you. And he picks some pretty opportune times to do it. He is a precision striker. He has that karate style. Magomedov does have a little bit of that karate style as well. So both of them do keep their hands down a little bit. But Magomedov, when he goes for his kicks, he drops his hands every single time. And it's to the point that I've seen him now in several different matchups getting hit with a straight coming in. You land a leg kick, I'm going to land a straight coming in. Michael Venom Page has a 6-inch reach advantage here in this matchup, a 1-inch height advantage, which is no big deal. I know that the age is a thing here with a 37 of Page's age, and then Magomedov only at 30. But when you're talking about fighting experience, Page has only lost 3 times. You're talking about a 22-3. He knows how to point you. He knows how to win in certain situations. Magomedov has never lost. And even though I am impressed with him, I'm not overly impressed with him. And I'm definitely not impressed with who you're beating. Bruno Silva, you beat him, but you beat him by decision. And even though you were landing heavy ass leg kicks on a constant basis, he wasn't folding to him. And then Tricoli, you were landing leg kicks on him that were thunderous, but he wasn't folding to him. And I know that Michael Venom Page is going to be able to keep some distance between you two. And you're not going to be able to just walk him down because he's an inventive striker. And you beating Michael Oleksiejczuk doesn't impress me. And you beating Armen Petrosyan, that was a nice knockout. I'm going to give you a, good job. But Michael Venom Page would have beat him too. You haven't beaten anybody in my eyes that Michael Venom Page wouldn't have beaten as well. And I think for me, for Michael Venom Page to be a plus 160 dog in this one screams out that I should just take a flyer on him as far as a money line bet. So I haven't done it yet. I'm probably going to take a bet on Michael Venom Page. I'm waiting because this one actually may get better in my favor. I think people are going to buy the hype of Magomedov, and I think they're going to continue to go. But I think Michael Page is definitely got the ability to get this done. I think he keeps distance well. He's very, very hard to take down. If you do take him down, which I don't think it's going to be a worry, I think this is going to be total stand-up, total striking. I think he would have been more worried about Ian Gary's his takedowns. He fought a good fight in that one. He did get taken down, but he wasn't able to get the submission in, and Page was able to get back to his feet. Ultimately, made it a very, very competitive match. My best bet in this one, best advice, is going to be wait till that spread line comes out and bet Michael on the spread. I don't know if you're going to get plus odds, but I think this is a fight that goes over 2.5. I think this is a fight that Michael Venom Page will win by decision. I think that this is where the zero goes away. Even now, here's my concern. My concern is the location of this fight. I don't trust the judges, and that is why I would feel more inclined to take something along the lines of a Michael Page, like a plus 1.5, or I'm sorry, not like a plus 3.5. If you can get a plus 3.5 where he has to just steal around or something along those lines, even if you can get a plus 5.5, plus 7.5, if they give lines like that, I'm taking Michael Page there, and I'll parlay him with something that I feel confident with as well. But Michael Page is going to be my pick here. We did have a matchup, just to throw it in there, Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. That matchup is no longer, so we've taken that one off. This is now your co-main event, so we would be normally breaking that one down. Unfortunately, I do look for him to replace him. I think Andre Muniz had passport issues from my understanding, so I do look for him to get a replacement possibly in there, or reschedule that bout for maybe next week or the next fight night. But in this particular matchup, I'm taking Michael Page. I think he gets it done. If the judging isn't all fucked up and they're not siding with their boy, then I think that Page gets this done by decision. But he's going to have to definitely make it very decisive. But I think he's going to have a speed advantage. I think he's going to have a reach advantage, distance advantage. I don't know if he's going to be standing. He's not going to stand in front of Magomedov, and I think that he is going to cause him problems, getting a beat on him while he continuously lands. And I think he's going to be up 2-0, forcing Magomedov to end up getting in one of those firefighting situations. And I don't think he's going to be able to put Page out. It could happen, but I don't see it happening. Going Page. And last but certainly not least, it brings us to our main event, Israel Adesanya taking on Nasruddin Imavov. This is going to be Israel Adesanya's first non-title fight in, I believe, 5 or 6 years. So it's still a 5-round fight, and we still know what we're going to get from Adesanya. There's enough tape out there. We know that he's good at takedown defense. He's got strong takedown defense. He's got excellent striking. That is the name of his game. He can sometimes be held against the fence, but he's fought some of the highest level competition in the middleweight division. He has beaten the majority of them twice, and he's continuously been in huge fights. So we know the spotlight is not going to be an issue for him. If anything, it makes him perform even better. We know that he needs a win. His last match, his last 2 fights, he's coming off 2 losses. Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. I don't know how much you can take away from him losing to those 2 fighters. Obviously, du Plessis is showing that he's one of the best in the division. He has all the tools to remain that champion for a while. Strickland, he gave Imavov trouble too. So along the same lines, they fought some of the same competition, and we have a fight that we're going to determine who the better one is. Adesanya is the older fighter. Nasruddin is the one coming up, trying to take the throne over a little bit. And he has all the chops to do it, honestly. He could definitely get this done. I see this as a match that if he can control the pace and get it along the fence and continuously put Adesanya there where he's draining his energy, where he becomes worn down a little bit as the match goes, he might have success. The only problem is I think you have a very, very highly motivated Adesanya in this one. I think he knows what he has to do. I think he knows what to expect. And Imavov doesn't – I think he's out to prove something too, and that he is the better striker. And that's something that I think may catch him early, because Adesanya, I feel like, is the better striker. I think he's faster. One thing that I will say is Adesanya was given major trouble by Sean Strickland. Imavov, I say it was a better matchup for Imavov versus Strickland than it was for Adesanya versus Strickland. Adesanya let Strickland continue. He let him walk him down. Imavov did not let Strickland walk him down. And I don't think that Adesanya is not the type to walk you down. So I don't think that's necessarily going to be in his game plan. He's going to be the type that's going to let Imavov possibly walk him down, and he's going to continuously find those openings that he can sneak in his strikes. And he's very, very precise when it comes to that. So I think that's going to be his game plan here, is to sit back, watch how Imavov ends up bringing the action to him. Imavov is not the type that's going to have the cardio of a Sean Strickland. So Adesanya, I feel like, is going to have the cardio to get through a 5 rounds. We've seen him do it before. He knows how to control that pace. But when it comes to betting this fight, this is another one that I'm going to be looking at the spread in this one, or an over-under, because I don't think that Adesanya is going to be able to knock Imavov out, honestly. I think that it's going to be one of those that they're going to kind of offset in their striking a little bit. And I can definitely see Imavov taking a couple of rounds in this. It's a 5-round fight. And if he ends up winning, I think there you go. That would pretty much at least that would win my bet. Wouldn't necessarily win this pick, but I am going to take Israel Adesanya in this matchup. I think the level of experience is way different in this one. I think Imavov, even though he is starting to fight some of these major players that as he's coming up, he hasn't fought the ones that Adesanya has had success against. And in this particular instance, don't you have to take the guy that is having the most success in these situations rather than the guy that hasn't fought in these necessarily big situations yet and isn't getting there? That means that he's going to have to overcome not only that, he's also going to have to overcome beating a former champion who defended the title, I think, 8 or 9 times. When you're talking along that level of success, Adesanya knows how to win. Very seldom does he lose. Not that Imavov does, but he also doesn't have the experience, like I said. So I think that this is going to be one that Israel Adesanya can get done. I see it being like a split decision. Either way, even if it was a unanimous decision in this 5-round fight, Nasruddin could still end up sneaking in around, getting a decent score there for us. So we could definitely win this and still win it, even though the pick may not reflect the bet. So this is one of those types that I feel strongly that he's able to get this done. So my pick is going to be Israel Adesanya. These odds may improve for you if you're willing. If you want to wait and bet an Israel Adesanya money line, I think as the fight goes on, I think this is going to get closer because I think there's going to be people on each side of this. So maybe wait see how it pans out. But ultimately, for me, I got to go Israel Adesanya in this. I like the fight to go long, so I'm going to be looking for that over 3.5 prop, over 2.5 prop, wherever that lands. I don't know where they'll put it, but I'll be looking for the over in that, and I'm going to also be looking for that Imavov plus spread line that'll possibly come out. And then obviously I do like to mess with spread lines and change them up every once in a while. So maybe I'll alternate it and I'll put the favorite at that, getting that plus by their name. So we'll see how that goes. I like to do it a little bit different, but I'm now going to show you a few of my bets that I have going that I've already got in. These are not huge, but again, I'm not going to waste time putting a bunch of money line stuff in just yet. And as you see, I've already doubled up one of these guys. It's not necessarily the one that I trust the most, which is kind of fucking weird that I did that. But I went ahead and did this. I got 2 picks in DraftKings, -123. Terrence McKinney money line and Mohamed Nemov money line. Like I said, both of these are fairly confident picks. I think that Mohamed Nemov just has the experience level that's going to be there. McKinney obviously is a lot younger in the fight game, and I think that he is better in the areas that Hadzovic is not. So I think being away from the cage for almost 3 years is definitely going to play a factor. So I'm going to put that in there. 2 more picks at a +111 clip on DraftKings. Mohamed Nemov again, money line, and Saeed Nurmagomedov money line. I think both these guys win, obviously for the reasons I just said on Nemov. But Saeed, I just think he's going to be the better striker, the quicker striker. I think his durability is there, and when I look at those two, I look at he's not used to getting beat in certain situations, and I don't think this is going to be one that he's going to be getting beaten in, because the guy is open to be hit. Saeed is too quick. I think he's going to take advantage of that, so I see him getting it done. On to my next. This is just a long shot. Like I said, I'll come on here midweek this time because I do have a bunch of stuff. As soon as these things break, I'll be hitting them. So I'm ready, but I got to wait to see what these numbers are and see how much it's worth for me to pump out there in some of these. But we'll be back. But this is my long shot parlay. Again, I don't necessarily like the fact that Nemov is in all of these right now. So I'm going to have to definitely change some stuff up. But I like all the guys in this parlay. And this is one that if you get far enough down, think about pulling it out if you're putting a bunch of money on it. This one came in, I believe, at +650. It's a long shot parlay. It's got Sergey Pavlovich money line, Shamil Gaziev money line, Michael Venom Page money line, Mohamed Nemov money line, and Terrence McKinney money line. I feel the most strong about Terrence and Shamil and Pavlovich. Obviously, those are ones that I feel very strong they're going to win their matches. That Michael Page, though, I cannot get away from it. I think he wins that fight. I think it's his fight to lose. So I gotta go with my gut on some of this stuff, and that's what it's telling me. So I'm gonna do that. Those are gonna be my plays for this weekend so far. I can't stay away from betting this stuff, so I'm definitely gonna be putting in more. I'll try and share that a lot more with you. I'm gonna try and get our Discord page set up where we can be sharing bets on there. I'll try and pin them in comments from now on if I put some stuff out there, let you know what I'm thinking about. Other than that, sign or subscribe to the page. Leave us a like. Let us know. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the picks that are coming out. Let us know what you think, even if it's anything about the show, whatever. We're going to have some breakdowns coming up. The Super Bowl now, the matchup is made, so we'll have some stuff coming up there. But this is MMA focused now. We'll start devoting a lot more into the content that I'll put out with MMA and UFC in particular. So thanks for sticking around, and I hope you enjoyed the picks. We will see you soon for an update on this. I'm sure things will change before this fight comes out. Might even have some differences in there, but I'll try and put out a little bit of my bets coming up as soon as possible. As soon as some of those lines drop, I'll be putting them out. But until then, this is Be All In Sports. My name is Brady. I will see you again next time. Peace out.